Okay, welcome everyone to Made Smarter's special LinkedIn Live to celebrate International Women in Engineering Day. Woohoo! My name is Lucy Rue and I am the Communications and Marketing Manager for Made Smarter UK. So today I'm joined by three lovely guests who are going to introduce themselves in a minute. But can I just say thank you guys for taking the time and coming and chatting about this on what is a pretty special day. So I'm just going to start off really quickly then by reminding our audience about why we're doing this broadcast. So as I've said, I'm from Made Smarter. Made Smarter is a government-backed initiative to help SME manufacturers adopt industrial digital technology. So we do that through grant funding and through skills and leadership training. So we are essentially in the manufacturing industry ourselves and supporting manufacturers across the country. And so we thought it would be a good idea then to celebrate this day by talking to some women engineers that we've found ourselves and that we know of, which is fantastic. So International Women in Engineering Day then is an awareness campaign to celebrate the work and achievements of female engineers. So today we're going to have a bit of a discussion about why that's important and also how some of the women who may be watching this and may want to go into a similar career, how they can do that. So I will stop talking, which you'll be glad of. And would you like to introduce yourselves? Rachel, would you like to go first?
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Baker. I'm Managing Director of JJ Smith & Co Woodworking Machinery. And full disclosure, I am not an engineer, but I am a woman in engineering. So yeah, important to say that at this moment in time before anybody takes personal slight.
I like it. Get it out early. I'm also not an engineer, but at least half of us in this conversation are, I hope. Claire, would you like to go next?
Hi, yes, I'm Claire Scott. I'm one of the technology adoption specialists at Made Smarter. I'm an engineer, but more importantly, it's you don't need to be an engineer, but women in manufacturing and engineering because they play multiple roles. But yes, my background is I started out. I did an aerospace engineering degree and then joined a global aerospace company in their R&D Centre of Excellence for additive manufacturing and spent about 5-6 years there and then moved on to Made Smarter as it started. Been with the programme ever since.
Fantastic. It's clearly paying well, Claire, because you seem to have a grand piano behind you. So
yes,
this is inspiration enough to become an engineer.
In my ranch in America.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Laura, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you. I'm Laura Huang. I am a chartered engineer. I wear multiple hats, really. I am a human factors engineer with a systems engineering background. I'm also a sustainability consultant, and I am a trustee and the current co-chair of the committee for a charity called She Can Engineer.
Perfect. And we're going to hear quite a bit about that to come because it's a great charity. I came across you guys at Subcon recently and stumbled across a panel actually on a similar vein to this. So I was very excited. So I was like, this exists. This is great. We can do something with this. So fantastic. And thank you again for joining me. Okay, well, should we maybe start then by finding out a bit more about International Women in Engineering Day and kind of when and why it started. So, Laura, did you have a bit of background about it?
I do, and I have a bit of a shameless plug for our She Can Engineer podcast, which is available on all your sort of podcast streaming device platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts. In our first episode, we actually interviewed the mother, I guess, of International Women Engineering Day, Dawn Bonfield. And in 2014, she sort of just came up with the idea of actually we need a special day to sort of celebrate and recognise women in engineering. So in 2014, well, there's a lot of work leading up to that, but we had the first National Women Engineering Day on the 23rd June. And then in 2016, it gained UNESCO patronage. And so the following year, 2017, was the first International Women Engineering Day.
Fantastic. Good background knowledge. I mean, I'm fairly new to the sector as of September, although I was a business journalist for a while, so I've been around the sector, and I didn't know about it actually. I hadn't really paid as much attention as I have this year, so it's really good to know that this movement's happening and that it's already, you know, got legs. So that's really good, and I'll give that a listen because it sounds like an interesting podcast too. Okay, so shall we address the elephant in the room, which may be, why do we need an International Women in Engineering Day? We may have all heard the kind of comments here and there of, you know, we don't have one for men and that kind of thing, which I'm sure was lighthearted, but it gets to a serious point, doesn't it, of why do we actually need to be celebrating this? And I mean, Rachel, is there any views that you have on that?
Yes, I think the basic answer is at the point at which we have 50% female employment across the entire industry, then maybe we don't need it anymore. But until we reach that point, there is clearly a disparity, and we need to be celebrating and encouraging more women into amazing careers and the industry. So yes, as far as I'm concerned, I will very much look forward to the day in which we don't need it anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually, isn't it? Because we'll talk about some of the statistics soon, but there is a disparity there. There's no kind of denying it. And like you say, maybe when we get a bit more sort of even in that sense, then it might not feel like it's as needed. But for now, I think it is quite important. I mean, Claire, Laura, are you of a similar vein there?
Most definitely. And I think I think when somebody mentions, well, why don't we have an International Men's Day? And I'll go, well, it's on, you know, November the 19th, actually. So there is actually an International Men's Day. But in terms of engineering, as I said, it's about that representation until we've got an equal split. I think it's important to note as well that I think studies have shown that the more diverse and the better representation of female leaders, businesses actually do better. And I think that's also what is important, is that actually, you know, there's evidence to show that, you know, we're better to help businesses grow.
I thought you were just going to end there. There's evidence to show we're better. So
I was trying not to inflate my ego.
Yeah, but you do raise a serious point, which is true, that actually a diverse C-suite usually has better outcomes, and that's seen across many sectors actually, and in business in general, and probably politics, I'd argue, but we might not get into politics because it's not the time. But Laura, would you say something similar to the others?
Yeah, I'd echo all of that. And I think Claire mentioned, you know, representation matters. And it really does matter, I think. It's representation within sort of looking at the 50-50 split within like society and industry, but also looking at sort of the intersectionality of sort of diversity as well. And I think gender is one of those ones where it's kind of the biggest one, and it tends to have the biggest focus, but everything we do within the gender parity space, it does, you know, trickle down into the other aspects of diversity and inclusion and equity as well.
Yeah, I think that's important to mention as well, isn't it? It's not just gender that we're sort of fighting on that front, but no, I totally understand that. Okay, so maybe you could tell us a little bit more then, Laura, about She Can Engineer and maybe some of the stats, because we've kind of made reference already to the fact that there is a bit of a disparity in terms of gender in engineering and manufacturing. So could you maybe just talk us through what the current state of the UK looks like in that sense?
Yeah, I do have a lot of stats.
Yeah.
So actually, compared to 2022, there's actually been a drop in the percentage of women in the engineering and technology workforce. So we currently only make up 15.7% of the engineering workforce, which dropped from 16.5%. And the data really looks. So this is data from Engineering UK. It revealed that there are actually more women entering engineering, which is great, but there's been a massive drop for around mid-career. So women between the ages of 35 and 64, there were 66,000 women that left the industry in the year. So that's quite concerning. And I think around 40% of women generally actually leave the industry after 10 years within their mid-career, compared to 17% of men. So the reason She Can Engineer kind of like came about, I guess, was really the group of us, quite enthusiastic, well, very enthusiastic, very passionate young engineers from various professional engineering institutions. So we had a whole range of engineers. So we've got civil engineers, structural engineers, mechanical, electrical, aerospace, for example. And we came together and thought we need to do something to, one, celebrate diversity within engineering, gender diversity within engineering, and two, have a look at, see if we can help tackle some of those challenges that we have.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. So it's the first time that I've heard those stats. So 66,000 women left within a year, aged between 35 and 64, and that would account for 40% leaving overall. Yeah. That seems like a lot of women leaving. We're trying to get women into it. Do we have any ideas between us why there may be so many women leaving this career? Do we think actually it's hard to progress beyond a certain point? Those of you that are kind of closer to industry, does that surprise you, Rachel and Claire?
I haven't heard those stats either, and I do find it quite surprising. I'd be really interested to see whether it was specific sectors. So is it the offshore industry leading a particular section of that, or is it certain sectors within engineering? I'm a data person. I'd love to see the data on that, to see if there was something specific within that. But yeah, was there any rationale officially provided with the statistics, or just given as?
There is actually there's a detailed report into it, so I haven't looked at the report in full detail, but there was it does break it down, but I'm not sure if it breaks it down sectors, but it does definitely break it down sort of like around age.
Is that freely available, or maybe we could post that into the comments on this LinkedIn Live for people who are interested to have a bit of a deep dive into it?
Yeah. It's just the Engineering UK report, so I can definitely put a link in.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. And how do you feel about those stats, Claire? I mean, is it something that you've seen in terms of career progression? Would it make sense for women to be leaving the industry?
I don't think it would make sense, but I think it is very much surprising, the scale of the challenge. And again, as Rachel said, I'd also like to dig into the data and understand what sectors are really affected. But yeah, I mean, there's lots and lots of advantages of working into the sector. But then again, whilst I work around manufacturing, I support manufacturing engineers or businesses, and I was an engineer, and I am by training. Technically, I would be one of those figures, because I left engineering and manufacturing.
So I suppose it could be that people have gone on to other careers because of their start in engineering. So it could be that they're in a supportive role. It could be that they've become a consultant, perhaps. So maybe we shouldn't read it as entirely negative, and that there's a reason why everybody is leaving in droves. Actually, it may be that they've become so qualified that they've gone on to another opportunity. So I guess we should kind of look at it both ways. Okay, well, that kind of leads us into then what is it like to be an engineer and having a career in this kind of sector. So I thought it might be quite interesting just to hear a bit of your personal backgrounds about kind of your career progression and how you've got to where you are today, and maybe some of the challenges that you faced. So I don't know, Claire, do you want to carry on and start off?
Sure. So as I said, I studied aerospace engineering. I'm not going to remember when. It was a while ago. And I actually always wanted to be a pilot. My dad was in the Air Force, so I was surrounded with aviation at a young age. So I think that sort of sparked it. Unfortunately, I couldn't actually afford to be a commercial pilot. So after I decided that that wasn't the career I could progress, I picked on engineering and went to study aerospace. Really enjoyed it, and when I graduated at the height of the financial crisis. So getting a job was a struggle, like many of us at that time. But I carried on my studies and went back to do a study for a PhD in finite element analysis, and then I got a job with GKN. They say never get a job before finishing your PhD, or else you'll never submit it. And I agree. Never get a job before you finish your PhD. So yeah. But all of that led to getting the job with GK with the aerospace company, and worked in additive manufacturing, and I caught the bug because additive manufacturing was so it was really starting to gain traction with everyone, and we were trying to 3D print aircraft parts and put them on planes. And so the what really excited me was the creativity that could go with the technology, as well as then the engineering and actually getting it right. And so I think that's really what excited me.
And so where did you study, Claire? Which university were you at?
It's now called the University of South Wales.
Okay.
At the time, it was called University of Glamorgan.
Right. Okay.
So, funnily enough, in South Wales.
That does make a lot of sense. And when you were studying, just out of interest, what was the sort of gender ratio like on your course?
Very, 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 very little.
Okay. Quite male heavy then.
I think I was the only one.
Okay. I'm always interested by that because just to see what's who's coming through. Obviously, I know you graduated probably about the same time as me, so hopefully things have changed a little bit now. But okay, fascinating. And then obviously you had your career at the aerospace company, and then you moved to Made Smarter. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So after that, I saw the advert for at the time it was IDT Advisor, Industrial Digital Technology Advisor. And I thought, well, I can actually go and use the knowledge that I gained with in additive manufacturing to help SMEs adopt the technology, and I thought it'd be a good challenge, so I can utilize that experience and help support SMEs with manufacturing and engineering in general, and shout about how brilliant additive manufacturing is.
Which you do a lot. Like you do a good job of.
No.
You do. Okay, final question for you then, Claire. Obviously, you're working with a range of manufacturers now. So you're going out and working with clients across the Northwest, because that's the reason that we both work in. Do you see much sort of equality in terms of gender, in terms of the businesses you're going into? So this is SME manufacturers.
Definitely some businesses are better than others. And obviously, Rachel, we've helped support you and your business. But I think it's still lopsided.
Yeah.
What is interesting though is that I've had a look at the stats for our Leading Change for Digital Champions and some of the leadership training courses, and we're running about approximately 30 to 32% of female representation.
Oh, okay.
So I think we're bucking the trend in terms of that. Of the delegates on the course, obviously, I don't know the stats.
Yeah, that's really
for
positive.
the companies combined.
because a lot of the people that we're training will then go back into their businesses and become the digital champion. So if, there is quite a high percentage of women, obviously it's not the 50-50 that we'd like to see, but we can't be perfect straight away. So at least it's heading in the right direction. But it sounds like women are now taking up that charge to sort of lead digital transformation in their businesses, at least anecdotally. So that's really good. Okay, thanks, Claire.
And I think also it's shown in the I think in some of the research that I mentioned. So there's the Institute for Manufacturing report that have done on the Made Smarter program. Again, that reflects the trends that when we have women or more diverse people in leadership positions, that the business performs better. They increase productivity. They have a better bottom line. They do more exports. They're more collaborative. And so the research proves that out.
Okay, perfect. No, that's a good mention as well. Okay, well, moving on to yourself then, Rachel. How long have you been in your current business, and what was your sort of career path then?
So starting back at the beginning, I loved science and maths at school. That it was always my thing. Absolutely loved it. When I was choosing what I wanted to do, I wanted to be David Attenborough, basically. That was my, life goal. And so I did animal biology, zoology at university. So I went up to Edinburgh and did a 4-year zoology degree up there. And then I was lucky enough to get a job in a research institute. So I carried on working in science for a bit. And then I did a PhD. So I did another 3 years. And then, unlike Claire, I did the slightly opposite thing. So I had horrendous morning sickness at my Viva. So the other alternative approach to doing a PhD is maybe not have horrendous morning sickness at your Viva. But anyway, so yeah, I then had a baby, and I was at home with a 6-month-old baby. We'd moved house and done all sorts of other things that people do at that point in their lives. And then, and I was approached by JJ Smith, which is where I now work, and it is a family business. So I was approached by the people who were here and said, would you come and bring some of your science background and just join as a non-executive director? So I had a 6-month-old baby and thought, this sounds like a great way of using my brain a bit while being at home with a baby. Happy days. And so I joined 1 day a month, and that was 11 years ago. And I became MD 18 months ago. So so one day a month turned very gradually into MD. And I think the point that I jokingly made at the beginning, I'm not an engineer, I'm a scientist by training. And I think it's a really important point that there's so many people with so many diverse backgrounds working in engineering, and we all bring different skills. And I think there is a really, I bring a different set of skills with my science background, and somebody else will bring a different set of skills with an English background or with no university education, with a different set of skill sets. And I think that's part of the message that we have to get out. And I think there's a proportion of people who are put off by, Claire was amazing. She was the only female on her university degree, total credit. But there's a bunch of people and young women who won't want to be that only woman on that engineering degree. We need to change that as well, so that you are not the only person completely. But I think we also have to say that this is an amazing career, and engineering and manufacturing is so fascinating and needs so many different skills and perspectives. And the more people we bring from the most diverse backgrounds, then the better it is for us all. Engineering and manufacturing is about problem solving, and you need a variety of different thoughts and way in to solve those problems, in my view.
No, I think that's a really good point, actually, Rachel. Also, I love the scope creep of like, can you just do 1 day and also do the MD? Like, absolutely, they've got you there. But
I could, sorry, Lucy, I was just going to pick up on Rachel. I always thought that for engineers and manufacturers, you write problem solvers. I think we also create dreams and make dreams a reality, and you need engineers and manufacturers to do that. Yeah. And I think the more people, the more diverse that we have in the industry, the more dreams that we can help turn into reality.
Oh,
absolutely.
a nice way to go, yeah. And I think you make a good point about the diversity at the education level, because that is a valid point. But also, I guess there's lots of routes into engineering, and maybe we can discuss a bit more and signpost how women of whatever age or whatever they're currently doing may want to get into engineering. One of the myths that actually got busted when I was at Subcon was that you had to be really good at maths to be an engineer, because everyone on the panel was like, yeah, it's great being an engineer, it's a really good salary, it's really interesting. And I actually messaged my program director and was like, oh my God, Alan, I think I might become an engineer. Obviously, I'm not going to do that. I was like, and then a message saying, but I'm pretty bad at maths, so maybe not. And I spoke to one of the ladies, Laura, who's from She Can Engineer as well, and said, do you have to be really good at maths to be an engineer? Because that might be my downfall. Mm-hmm. She was like, no, not really. I was like, wow. So yeah, mate, is there well, Laura, first of all, tell us a little bit about your kind of career path, and maybe are there any other myths that you often hear?
Yeah, that's a really good one. I think that's one that when I do lots of like STEM outreach, they are STEM jobs, science, technology, engineering, maths, but you don't have to be good at them. I mean, an interest in them is obviously an advantage, but it's not like, for me anyway. I'll go back to my background in a bit, but going back to what Claire was saying, it's really cliche, but engineers, we change the world. We make the world a better place, and to do that, you can have the sort of the STEM, the science and the maths and stuff, but you also need the creative brain part of it. You need the creativity. So a lot of my work is looking at sort of the designing of stuff and being able to think outside the box. So my background really, I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I was at school. I enjoyed DT, I enjoyed design, I enjoyed art, I enjoyed languages. I did Latin for GCSE. I don't know why.
Do you know any Latin? Give us some Latin, Laura.
One of the ones I remember, funny enough, we had a school song that was all in Latin, and we had a school motto, which was Age Quod Agis, which is roughly translates to do what you do. I was like, do what you do best, or I like to say, you do you, which is kind of how I live my life now. It's great. But it was actually a physics teacher who said, have you considered engineering? And I was like, I don't know what that is. He signed me onto this like 6-month course with the Engineering Development Trust, and it was called the Engineering Education Scheme. It's 6 months after school club. And what I really enjoyed about it wasn't just like the sciencey type stuff, but I loved having like bouncing ideas off people, the team working aspect of it. You could come up with like really wild ideas, and that was probably the best part. It was like we were given a project, and it was something. It sounds quite mundane. It was trying to come up with a novel way of how to locate polyethylene pipes underground. And we're all school kids, and we're like, but then you start looking at it and you start talking to other engineers and talking to other like experts, and you're like, well, what if you could do this, and what if you could do this? And I think at one point we decided that we wanted to use robots and things like that. So it was just really random, like big ideas, and then sort of like, actually let's look into those sorts of ideas. And that's what I really enjoyed about engineering. So then I decided to go into engineering, went to civil engineering before I went to university, because I didn't know what type of engineering I wanted to do. Worked for a company called Halcro. Again, really enjoyed the sort of problem-solving aspect of it, the team working, collaboration. Went to university, went to Loughborough University, did systems engineering. My engineering degree split from male to female wasn't as bad as Claire's experience. So it was a lot better than that. Wasn't like 50-50, but yeah, it was still, yeah.
You had enough for a girl gang, at least.
Yeah, we did. And then whilst I was there, I applied for an internship for an aerospace company, BAE Systems, and I worked there for a summer, loved it, went back to do an internship between my second and third year, and then went on to the grad scheme. And there I really got to experience like lots of different types of engineering. I was a systems engineer, I had a systems engineering degree, but I didn't really know. I mean, just within one industry, within one company, there were so many different types of engineers that were that I got to work with, and I got to experience lots of different things. Like I worked on like designing fuel systems and qualifying equipment, and then started working on things like designing cockpits and training systems. And that's when I discovered human factors, and I loved it. And I thought, actually, yeah, it makes perfect sense, because when we design and build stuff, we design and build stuff for humans, because we use them. So and that's where I found my passion for human factors engineering, and that's kind of what I do now, and apply that to the sustainability sector. So I don't work at BAE Systems anymore. I moved into sustainability consultancy, and next month I start a new role in somewhere else, which...
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. I won't say anything too much yet.
Hope you haven't just announced that you're leaving on this LinkedIn Live. Mic drop live presentation. No.
I think one of the best things about human factors engineering, funnily enough, is we work with lots of different types of engineers, but we also work with lots of non-engineers, or people who are engineers with sort of different backgrounds. So psychologists, for example, physiotherapists, and software engineers. So it's really exciting. It's a really exciting space to be in.
Yeah, it sounds it. And kind of a full circle moment that you're at BAE as well, because I think the operations director there, Paul McLaren, sits on our steering board for Made Smarter. So we do have good links with BAE. So that's great to hear. Okay, well, we are running slightly over the 30 minutes, but I just really want to make sure that we get in a section on signposting, because hopefully, you know, the audience have enjoyed hearing a bit more about the careers, the fantastic careers that you've all come through, and made me quite jealous. And maybe they want to get into engineering too. So, you know, where would you say people started? Maybe with yourself, Laura, and She Can Engineer. How can women who are interested in coming into engineering find out more about the kind of roles and the, you know, the average salaries and things like that?
There's lots of things. I think, for example, going into engineering doesn't have to be the university route, for example. So if you're sort of early careers, apprenticeships are a really great option as well. If you're sort of like wanting to transition into an engineering career, there's loads of resources out there. She Can Engineer. We primarily do, like, we put on events, and we just had an event on Friday, the 21st. And that was like a celebration. We have lots of like sponsors who come and showcase how great careers are within engineering. And so I think your network is a really good place to start. And looking at places like events and networking opportunities to go out and go and talk to people as well. So that's where maybe I would start the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's good, you know, thinking about plugging into networks, because we all are quite well networked these days, especially on LinkedIn. Rachel, would you have any tips for other women who are thinking of getting into this sector or considering it?
Yeah, so I think engineering and manufacturing is just such a broad brush, you know, like between us, we all work in such wildly different industries. So I almost think saying getting into engineering is too big. It's what do you want to do? Like, and you could be doing anything within that. So if you've got something that you're really passionate about, there will be companies out there, or there will be a sector of engineering and manufacturing, or a space in which. So I think it's choosing that. So if you're into construction, or you're into airplanes, or whatever it happens to be, there is a business out there within that space. And then just approach them. And the vast majority of businesses will be very excited to hear from anybody who wants to have that conversation. And just so I think, don't be afraid of knocking on doors, but if you just say, well, I want to be an engineer, without knowing what that really means, I think that's quite a hard starting point. So come at it from the opposite angle. What are your dreams, or what are the problems you want to solve, or where is that, and then go at it that way. And yeah, there's some amazing opportunities at the moment. And yeah, good luck to anybody who wants to transfer. And for younger people who are thinking about it from a school perspective, I think, again, it's asking people. So don't be afraid of asking for work experience. Don't be afraid of, can I come and have a look and understand what it is that you want to do? We have, I think, 3 work experience students here this week, and it's just that until you've been inside a workplace, you don't actually know what goes in behind. There are an awful lot of grey buildings on industrial estates that nobody knows what's happening. And I think there's whatever your local industrial estate is will have something amazing that you didn't know about. So find them on the internet and then just ring them up, send them an email and see where that gets you.
Yeah, I think as well, similar to that, there's quite a few institutes that you'd probably be able to go have a look around. So thinking specifically in the Northwest, we have NERIC, which is a robotics centre, which is aligned with the University of Salford. I don't think it's necessarily open to the public, but I'm sure if people wanted to get in touch and do a tour, they would consider it. It's great. They have robotic dogs. I got far too excited when I was there. Tried to let me ride the robotic dog. You're not allowed to do that, it turns out. So I can't go back to NERIC, but never mind. And also the Additive Manufacturing Centre, Claire, at MMU.
Print City.
Print City, yeah.
We've also got numerous other sort of research and technology organisations. So you got the AMRC, Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre. And in Northwest, so that's up at near BAE in Lancashire, but also the MTC in Liverpool, and yeah, there'll be others for elsewhere in the Northwest. But yeah, I think that's
tips.
Sorry.
Do you have any tips for women who are thinking of getting into the sector?
I think there has been pretty well covered already. I just reiterate, just get involved and search. There are numerous sort of organisations I think that are available to help. So and I think it's just being curious, inquisitive, and as Rachel said, yeah, just ask and get involved. And find out what you're passionate about, and don't be afraid to try it and see if you like it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one of the things, isn't it? You don't know until you try it. And also, obviously, we're all on LinkedIn. And so if anyone is watching this and wants to find out a bit more information about any of the sectors that we've mentioned, or any of the kind of roles that the ladies have done previously, then feel free to get in touch with us or to comment on this broadcast, and we can hopefully point you in the right direction. So I think we do have a slide with a bit more signposting on. So top left there, that's all about today, and a bit more about the movement, which we mentioned at the beginning. She Can Engineer, where Laura's from, that's got a wealth of information there, all around female engineers, and a bit more signposting of how to get into the sector. And then obviously Made Smarter, if you're a SME manufacturer and looking to adopt digital technology in the Northwest, then feel free to register and find out more about how we can help you. So I think that is pretty much a wrap, guys. We have managed to keep it under the 40 minute. Oh, go on, Laura.
I forgot to mention, I guess, when we were talking about, I think when Rachel and Claire were talking about organisations, it sort of like it popped into my head, because She Can Engineer really came about because of professional engineering institutions. And so when Rachel mentioned, if you know you're passionate about something, so for example, aerospace, like Claire was, go to have a look at like the Royal Aeronautical Society, have a look at like the Institution of Engineering Technology or the Institute of Mechanical Engineers. They all have loads of resources that can help and link you up, and they're, again, like networking events and that sort of thing. They put those on locally as well as nationally.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so there are. And I think you wouldn't know this necessarily unless you were in the industry. I was blown away by all these kind of institutes, which I've kind of come across in the last 6 or 7 months. And they are fantastic. So yeah, there is a lot out there, isn't there, to help people get into this sector. So just make the most of it, really, and come and join us, I guess. Okay, fantastic. Well, we'll leave it there. But thank you so much, Rachel, Claire and Laura, for joining me this afternoon. And I hope you enjoy the rest of International Women in Engineering Day. And we will be back doing another Made Smarter LinkedIn Live next month, and that's going to be around decarbonisation. So we will be back with dates for that. But yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much. And happy Inward.